I'd like to call to order the WTA Board of Directors meeting for June 1st. We can start off with a roll call, please, of who's in attendance. Vicki, please.
Yes, Davidson.
Here.
Donovan is absent. Fleetwood.
Here.
Hawkinson.
Here.
I believe Huthman is absent. Cortez.
Here.
Lilyquist.
Here.
Sadhu is absent. Lautenbach is absent. Do we have Dan Darwin in the boardroom?
Present.
Thank you, Dan.
Do we just barely have a quorum?
Yes,
Okay.
we have 5 voting members, which is a quorum.
Okay, we'll go ahead and we'll proceed. First thing is always enjoyable. We have 2 employees, both 20-year service awards. Eric, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Well, good morning, everybody. It is my pleasure to recognize 2 of our operations staff members who have been here for 20 years as of next Friday, the 9th. So Jason is going to come up and Jason Curry, 20 years. You guys have in the boardroom an odd look at the screen, look at the man combination here. But Jason started here 20 years ago as a transit operator. Very quickly was promoted into the role of expediter and served as an expediter for what, 6.5 years. And importantly, while he was an expediter, he was the expediter while we were building the Cordata station. And so he was not in a luxurious office. He was in essentially an outhouse out at the Cordata station. But one of the fun things about Jason is that outhouse proved to be very profitable for his life, as you may recognize his wife, Amber, and they met as he was sitting in that outhouse, helping direct buses and support passenger needs.
Everything you want to say about
on Westerly. Jason brings a ton of joy to his job. He has now found a home out in Linden, and providing a great service as part of our really developing that service out in that community. And Jason's just been a pleasure to work with you for 18 years. It's just great. Appreciate all that you do, all that you've done. So 20-year pin for you, and an opportunity if you want to say anything to the room and present or on screen.
I'll just say thank you, and we're looking forward to how many more it takes for me to retire.
About 20? Why does he look like he's already retired?
Yeah. It's not like semi-retirement.
And next up is Mike Gross. Started on the same day as Jason in the same transit operator class, and is now currently wearing the same shirt, which is employee appreciation Hawaiian shirt. Mike actually semi-similar path to Jason. Started as a transit operator and very quickly was promoted into the role of expediter. The difference there is that Mike has continued to stay as an expediter and really taking control of our downtown station in many cases. Also works out at Cordata, but helps, is our most senior expediter now, is the leader of that work group, is also a leader within the transit operator and operations work group. He's been a member of the ATU executive board as the vice president. He's also helped us as part of the ATU team to negotiate our most recent contract. And so Mike has a breadth of knowledge, has seen all the situations that we see in transit, working and supporting operators and staff, passengers, out of the station. And some great photos of Mike when he's not here. You can't find him because he's in the woods somewhere. He's on a boat fishing somewhere up in central Canada. So Mike, it's been an absolute pleasure. Appreciate all that you've done. 20-year pin and an opportunity for you to say
Thank you, and we'll see if we can go another 20.
Yeah.
I'm not even close to retirement.
Many years.
That was good. We'll now go on with our agenda. So this is the majority of our meeting. The bulk of the time is set aside for agenda item D, which is a Bellingham Station Visioning Project Information. Les, do you want to start, or it's Mary, but
Yeah, so we've got Mary and Tim are at the WISTA Planners Conference, so they're coming in remotely. And then we also have a Transpo group who has led through this. This is not a decision brief, it's information. So it's kind of a status update on where we are with the Bellingham Station. As you know, we've got to remodel that to increase transit operations into the future. And as part of that, I thought as if we're cracking into the ground, we might as well see how we can provide a supporting element to the city and development downtown. So Transpo was engaged to help lead through a stakeholder group to try to figure out what that could look like or what the elements could be and so forth. So with that, I'm assuming Tim's on. I can't see from the little 4 windows, but Tim, or if you're on, I'll turn it over to you, sir. And if not,
yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I'm just gonna turn it directly over to Mary Anderson at this point.
Okay. And Chris.
All right, thank you. So like Les mentioned, this really is a critical project for us. In order for us to expand service for our community and implement some of the wonderful ideas in WTA 2040, we must expand our downtown station. And so we've been working with the consultant group as well as some stakeholders for about the last 6-7 months. And just so you know who was on that kind of 3-person steering committee, that was myself, and then Darby Galligan, who is a senior planner at the city of Bellingham, and Alice Clark, who is the executive director of the Downtown Bellingham Partnership. And then we also invited in many other business owners and property owners to talk with us as well. And Chris is going to be covering that. And so with that, I will hand it over to Chris from Transpo. Thank you.
Good morning. Everyone can hear me? We good on that front?
Yep.
All right, excellent. And we can see the screen, correct?
Yep. Correct.
All right, good morning. So again, as Mary said, my name is Chris Teitz with Transpo Group, and I was the project manager on the consultant side for the Bellingham Station Visioning Study. Also on the phone is one of my colleagues, Maris Fry, who was integral as part of the project team as well. But just to kind of hop right in, the real purpose of this project, as it was defined to us, was to develop a unified vision plan that really explores both the operational needs of Bellingham Station itself and its current capacity constraints that are forthcoming, but also kind of understand some opportunities that might exist if something did happen at this facility or at another location, and how would that integrate and support with the overall community as a whole. So our project really had 4 primary tasks. We started with a local understanding, then we did an internal stakeholder engagement process through telephone interviews and a half-day interview session. Then we held a series of community workshops, and I'll delve into that shortly. And lastly, we developed the vision plan, which has been getting finalized and being delivered as we speak. So for our local understanding, we really looked at first the neighborhood characteristics, and we kind of examined all the great work that's already been done in this community. We also did an operational analysis looking at the station itself and the transit operations that are there on site, because obviously anything that would be developed, we want to make sure that first and foremost transit is its primary function. And then we also explored at length the current land use in the neighborhood around the station itself, and this all kind of added to our, we call it a desk scan, kind of our overall understanding that we could then help kind of define and move the project forward. Then throughout last fall and into December, we held a series of stakeholder engagements. These were both phone interviews with landowners and business owners in the community, as well as an on-site meeting that we had where we would speak to them about kind of what they see as the opportunities for their community. From that, really the future desires of the station, and when we talked to them, was they wanted something that had programmable and flexible community space. It was convenient for public services. It enhanced the connectivity between, you know, the station itself and development along the waterfront and throughout the community, and was vibrant and could really be a vibrant centralized location for activity. Then we developed a series of 2 workshops, and they were half-day workshops as well that really kind of hammered and delved into very specific items. The first was held in February, and the primary objectives of that meeting were to, 1, educate stakeholders of the purpose of the vision study itself and what its anticipated outcomes are. We wanted to gather input from them on, you know, what issues are they seeing and what opportunities exist along in the community as well as the station. And then also we wanted to guide them through a process to develop a conceptual vision statement, which is a critical element of any vision plan. And we went through a series of different activities and gameplay. And as you can see, this is looking over Alice's shoulder as we did a vision statement Mad Libs that we developed that really helped us churn and get some ideas. We also did a rainy walkabout on that day. And from the overall conversation itself, we really identified that obviously transit services and its operations have to maintain first and foremost on this site or another site where the station would be potentially housed. And then really looking at some of the supportive uses that they started to explore and share that, you know, 1, the community thought was important for this, as well as, you know, elements that could be integrated into a facility. Housing was the #1 item, followed by bicycle storage and bike sharing facilities. Then there was a grouping of community services and community space. I'll just explain what those are quickly. Community services are those that are more active. So it would be an informational kiosk for, you know, transit services, but also the community as a whole. And then the community spaces will be more passive, that could be used on a, you know, reservation. It could be a community room, some sort of facility that could be shared for individuals to rent out for the space or something in that context. Then open space was discussed a number of different ways, either through bikeways and greenways and also green roofs. And lastly, understanding that parking is an important component of the neighborhood for the businesses, but also it's an opportunity that space can be leveraged. Then we held, we kind of went off. We then analyzed and facilitated this information internally, and then went back for a second workshop on March 10th. The intent of the second workshop was really to explore the relationship of the station and its neighborhood, and that was done through a pretty robust land use exercise. You can see over here, we called it the Bellingham Blocks exercise. Then we also wanted to have a better understanding of the prioritization of some of these supportive services and have individuals understand how much, you know, how much residential would be required at a facility if it was going to be financially feasible. And that was done through this exercise as well. And lastly, we went through a series of kind of visualization gameplay to gather input on an overall look, feel, and aesthetic of a station itself. From that workshop, they really kind of honed in that, you know, expanding transit operations is the #1 thing that has to happen on this site. We really explained to them, but in both workshops, the importance of being able to expand physically and for all intents and purposes, increasing the operational capacity by 50% was the number that we were, the target we were shooting for. And that was kind of an anchoring piece to all of this. Definitely there's opportunities that from their perspective to incorporate a mix of additional uses that are there to help support transit operations. Greenways should be leveraged. This active public space, community services, public space, and making sure that it's green, and are there opportunities to explore this beyond just the ground floor? And they certainly demonstrated this in some of the activities that we worked on. And then making sure that with any activities that were done on this site or supporting that, that we offset on-street parking losses that might be incurred along Railroad Avenue. So from that, we then went off and we took all of this great information, and I have to say they were really great workshops on both days and throughout the entire project. And it was really great working with the different members of the community. But the overall vision statement that was developed is as such. And I'll just read it quickly. Our vision for Bellingham Station is to provide a safe, reliable, and efficient transit hub that supports multimodal transportation. The station will be complemented by robust community and mixed-use spaces that energize and strengthen local businesses, residents, and visitors. The Bellingham Station and surrounding area will help shape the character of the downtown and connect people to opportunities in each other by providing a community destination that supports a diverse, vibrant, and friendly neighborhood. So this is what was the output from those workshops. 4 goals of the workshop. One, really trying, again, they really understood that the first goal is making sure transit is a top priority and the first and foremost activity that happens at the station. The second goal is making sure that the station has an ability to energize and really kind of communicate with in a neighborhood context with the overall the station neighborhood surrounding it, and promoting this area as a destination, not just as a transit facility itself. Prioritizing bike ped and the transit modes within all of the different public spaces, and this would be consistent with the city's transportation model hierarchy. And then really embodying vibrant, walkable, and connected neighborhood feel, and trying to make something that would really encourage those types of activities. So from this, we developed the programmatic elements, and as you can see, transit operations is, again, first and foremost what we took into any out of the visioning, and they certainly helped to craft that. And as you can see on the right, I'm not going to go through them all, but these were some of the operational constraints that we tried to work through the visioning activities. Housing was the number 2 item. It was described both as an opportunity for the community, but that it's something that's in need, but also an opportunity for the facility if it were to potentially integrate some sort of housing component. Bicycle amenities was a number 2 item on the list. And then some of the other ancillary ones were the community service and community spaces, and then green space that could work its way through. So from that, we all of this work got us to our pictures. So this is what they came up with, and we've shared this with a few folks within I know obviously with Mary and Tim and Darby took a look at this, and they certainly stated that this was indicative of what was spoken about. But I'll quickly, if everyone can see my mouse. So the vision is to take some of Railroad Avenue as part of that right of way to really use that space to expand the operations themselves. The bus operations would be on the first floor exclusively of the facility. And while this is an enclosed facility, they did mention that they liked an open field. So that's going to be a challenge of how do we have something that is enclosed and weather protected, but also feels open and airy. So I have a couple other aspects of these renderings that I can share, but bus operations would be on the first floor, utilizing first floor space within the plaza area by where the kinetic arc is currently stands. Might have to get moved a little for WTA operations and administrative activities, as well as some informational. And then leveraging the space above as, community spaces potentially in the first and second floor. And then trying to program a lot of this space as residential. As you can note, there is a green, roof deck. This could be both public and private. I think a lot of the intent from the workshop participants that this would be a more public space, but it could be, something for, private use as well for residents. And then if you can see, I have a better angle in a moment. A ribbon above the transit operations could be used as a buffer. That would be within that ribbon, that would be parking facilities to offset some of the parking. On the outside, there's a cycle track, and this would then connect into the existing bike ped infrastructure within the community, and a standalone, pretty robust bike facility itself for either bike lockers, or bike rentals, or different mobility aspects that could be leveraged out of that location. Again, this is a different perspective to kind of have an understanding. And we have another perspective from the other angle. So as you can see, the buses, the intent would be to come in from one side of the facility. There would be a number of bus bays inside. And then, vehicles entering the facility would be more on the southbound, whereas buses on the outside would be northbound. And this option, we did do a sketch operational analysis of this, and the physical footprint of this would allow for a 50% increase going from, at a bare minimum. Right now there's 10 stalls within the right of way and within the station footprint itself. And that this would allow for between 10 and 18, or I'm sorry, 15 to 18 and possibly 20 locations. So one kind of caveat to note, we really focused during our conversations, we did speak a lot about different opportunity areas throughout the community. There are other properties that could be leveraged down the road, and they are noted in the final plan itself. But any renderings and drawings, we wanted to make sure they were at least rooted in property that WTA owned or had access to leveraging, and we're not within under private hands right now. So just to note that was something that was considered and certainly discussed in the plan itself. So with that, any questions?
I have, Michael.
Board members, are there any questions?
Yeah, can you hear
Or
me?
just comments and discussion?
I got
Is there
how much
more-
housing
is
are we
there more
talking about here?
Go ahead, Todd.
How much housing are we talking about here?
So the housing itself, there is not an actual square footage that was estimated on this. During our exercise, we did, it was scaled. So, with this, it would be 4 stories potentially. So of the building this building is 4 to 6 stories high, which does work within the neighborhood. So, you would assume 4 stories of residential that would be part of this program itself. And that was something that was discussed. I don't have a number off my head, but it was in the plan itself, and during workshop 2, that was one of the main kind of items to have participants understand that in order to make something financially feasible, you need to have residential takes up a lot of space to make something financially feasible.
And was the city involved in discussions about the loss of parking around there?
Yes, so Darby was in all of our meetings, and not just in the workshop meeting. She actually was a participant in all of our project management meetings throughout this project. And I think it wasn't something that they said no to. So and Mary has her hand up.
Show more participants.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Todd, before we even kicked off this project, we went to Seth might be able to say what the actual name is, but it's like the mayor's executive staff meeting. And so basically all of the executive staff of the city of Bellingham, and let them know we're going to be starting this project, and the city is a key partner. And so they were all aware of it and are all
Move that barrier over.
supportive.
The grab bar? Take the grab bar. Sorry, we're trying to see more participants. There's a little grab bar in between the gallery and the image. And if you push that, it usually double, there you go. Yay. Okay, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I can see all participants. Is other board members or staff? I'm sorry, Mary, we kind of cut you off.
Oh, that's okay. Did you want me to say it again?
Yeah, please, I didn't hear it, I was
Okay,
distracted.
sure. Yeah. So I just wanted to let everybody know that before we did the stakeholder involvement, we went to the mayor's executive staff meeting and let them know, that we're doing this project, and they were all supportive and aware, and had even said during that project, this is in alignment with our plans as well. And the Mayor of Fleetwood may have other comments to add to that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Michael, they came and gave a presentation to the department head team, and there was great enthusiasm all around. I would just chime in by saying, first off, as I suspect people know in varying degrees, but there's a lot of visualizing of what that particular part of town can be in the future. In fact, last year I was invited to present at the Mayor's Institute on City Design, and there were 3 identified sort of vexing challenges that have great opportunity, and this area was one of them. So I'm just thrilled that you're going into this much detail. You're doing all kinds of things that we need to do, sort of envisioning the future of space making. I really commend you for the effort at creating multifunctionality. It's pretty cool. It's exciting. It's going to be a boost in the arm to downtown when this gets off the ground. There's a number of other things that are in the offing as far as development goes in this area. So I'm really excited by it. So go WTA.
Thank you, Seth. Les, did you want to say something?
This is trying to execute the board's vision of transformative thinking for transit. Then what can we do as transit to bring support to these problems that are societal? So not just siloed thinking of transit itself, but if we're doing transit, and what else can we do? So celebrating the foundational thing that made WTA great on the transit side, but then what else can we do to support the visioning? And so that's what you see in the vision statement and the goals is transit operations is the #1 thing. But then what are those other things, as long as we're doing that we can do? So things like this would be things that provide supporting efforts to the city's effort. As the mayor said, he's got a vision for down there, and could this be an anchor to one side of downtown to include that destination, community destination that's in the vision statement? And so it's trying to bring together all these elements of a whole of society or whole community approach to things. And so thank you to the board for causing us to think this way and pushing us to think a little differently.
Scott?
Do we have at least a ballpark figure on cost?
No, this is just a what it could look like with the intention. I mean, there would still need to be geotech that goes into that.
Sure.
Many more discussions with the
Looks like
city
30
on
million.
types of housing.
What's that?
It looks like 30 million.
So there's much more to come back to get that. There are a variety of financing opportunities out there by combining housing and transit through U.S. Department of Transportation, the Build America Bureau, including grants, but also very low interest financing on that isn't paid back for 5 years, so you can generate income to repay. So there's a variety of ways to approach this, but there are a number of purely technical steps that we need to take to see on the massing, the square footage, the geotech, all those kinds of things.
So I'm going to take a turn now with some of my thoughts, and part of it relates to cost, or at least prioritization. So first of all, I agree with Mayor Fleetwood. Yes, please. It really is the sort of thing that we would hope for in downtown development. but my comment is that it seems like the design included something for everyone, and I really I appreciate that. But if we had to prioritize, it's transit operations obviously first, and as we saw, it's housing second. I hate to say it, but I would compromise community meeting space, in part because it's an operational challenge, a security challenge, to create private spaces that are closer to what would be, I mean, public spaces closer to what would be private residential spaces. And, you know, I'd kind of rather see 10 more housing units in a location like that. I mean, if you can't get more transit-oriented development than this kind of project. And so personally, when push comes to shove, when we're looking at finances and cost and benefit, I would keep transit operations and housing as 1 and 2. I really would keep those. And I think things like pedestrian activation and things like that, they'll be easy to include in the project no matter what. Those site considerations won't be cost drivers. So that's just my initial reaction. Other board members have points of discussion or questions?
I agree with you on the community meeting space. I think there's already underutilized community meeting space at the library, which is pretty close by. Also, I thought about safety and security. In that open space on top, especially, was when kind of my radar went off on that. It seems like that would be hard to secure. You know, I hate to say it, but it seems like it would just become a loitering ground to maybe do drugs. Like, we've had those issues in the past. Yeah, I love the idea of having the residential component. I mean, it's provides housing and provides some income to pay for this, which is nice.
Scott?
So I guess the housing element, I understand. I guess I'm nervous us getting in the housing business.
Lyndon?
I know. So I guess, have we explored the option of like condoizing the building? And, you know, WTA runs the first floor and somebody else buys and runs the housing piece of it. And and so the building is condoized into 2 or 3 different entities, so that I know the city of Linden is not good when we get into managing houses and rental things. We're just bad at it.
Agreed. Or we don't have the capacity or capabilities to do that. So what we would do is lease out some sort of ground lease or sell or some sort of transaction where we would get qualified people to do it and then turn it over to them to design and build and manage.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking if it's condoized, then somebody else is doing the return on investment doesn't work.
Exactly.
Instead of us trying to figure that out.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't get involved in that. We'd turn it over for them. And depending on how that, you know, what kind of housing and so forth, it could be another revenue stream.
So just a comment, and I did mention Linden because we're looking at a potential housing related project up in Linden, maybe a completely different model, but in both cases, it shows that WTA is talking about activities that we haven't been directly involved in. And I think you're right. In both cases, we're going to want some separation. So WTA does not become a housing operator, even if we are participating in a project which creates more housing.
Yeah, we're trying to stimulate the activity in support of what the city's vision is for those areas.
Dan?
So just speaking on it, just wondering, you know, I don't want to get too far into the rental stuff, but the rental market now is terrible. And I just would wonder if we get into that kind of deal, if we can put some kind of stipulations on rent control and not just have a major for-profit person start to run that and then the rents just get out of control. And then we've now contributed to the overall rent problem within the city. So just things to consider if we're going that direction.
My guess is that affordable housing has been a part of the conversation. Seth, do you remember if that was actually, or for that matter, less, if the affordability component was part of the discussion?
So all options are on the table, and part of that is working with the city to identify the housing need and what is it? As other communities have seen, many times there's a affordable housing, but there's a middle market that's missing. And so what happens is the middle market takes the affordable housing. And so you can't use it the way it was intended in many cases. And so it depends. We'd have to do all that kind of work to figure out.
Thank you. Seth? Seth, you had some feedback too?
I'm just gonna observe, let us not forget, this is high level conceptualization at this time. So, but yeah, I agree with what Les just observed.
So thank you for this. As you say, this is for discussion. What is the next step? What do you want to hear from us? How's it going? What do we do next?
Mary and Tim, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and weigh in on this question. So obviously this is the very early step in the whole process. And we're kind of timing it out. So next year we'll be getting a little deeper into a feasibility assessment, understanding what's possible on this site and possibly some other sites. You should see some budget requests for that later this year, so we can begin that work next year. And then getting our funding package together over time. We already have $5 million from the state. I think that's a 2025 opportunity. But we basically need to get this all lined up to be able to move forward on a project, I'd say 26, 27. So, and this is really foundational behind our rapid transit study and other kinds of transformational things that we're talking about. So yeah, we're beginning that process, but next year we should be able to get some data to move forward on a decision on a site.
If I could jump into that, the state grant is, we've got 5,500,000 of it is 25, 27 biennium, and the remainder is 27, 29 biennium on that. Next year, and thank you to the city, and their tip is on the transportation fund. It has some money to help with the due diligence side of that.
So I guess the question is there any concerns that need to be voiced by board members, or will staff continue, as Les says, with due diligence and scoping out the feasibility of the project, keeping in mind that we have funding that's related to the transit station, which is a definite. It's these other elements I think that need exploring.
Michael, can I ask a question? Can we, sorry.
Go ahead, Scott. Todd, please.
Can board members see the plan that was just presented to us? I assume there's more of a report in those slides.
Yes, so we'll email out the presentation, and then the report is being finalized, and we'll share that as well.
Thanks, Todd. Scott? Oh, Eric?
Yeah, a couple questions. The $5 million from the state, specifically, what is that to be spent on? Like, is that transit or housing as well? Sorry.
It's for the expansion of the Bellingham station, so it's flexible money as long as it's being used to expand the station.
So it doesn't have to be all transit based. It can be transit, housing, commercial, whatever the case may be.
Well, we'd have to have the component would have to be transit expansion. We couldn't say we're going to take that site and make it commercial and use that money for that. So as long as we're doing the transit station expansion, then we're good.
And have any other partners been contacted as a joint venture, whether that be private monies or Opportunity Council or the county? Who else has been involved in this so far?
Mary, do you want to talk about the partner or the folks that have been involved? Please.
Yeah, so sorry, it might be a little bit loud with the background noise, but so in the steering committee, it was myself, the city of Bellingham, and the downtown Bellingham Business Partnership, and then we invited basically all of the surrounding business owners and landowners to be part of the stakeholder group, and then in addition invited some of the local nonprofits. So we did make the Opportunity Council aware of this project and did invite them to participate. They did decline or I guess didn't respond or didn't participate at this point, but I could definitely see participation in the future. The United Way is a participant. They're a neighboring business as well as, you know, a nonprofit that helps with the community quite a bit. The health department was also at the table. And then, like I mentioned, numerous property owners and business owners in the vicinity. So we did try to kind of, for this first round of stakeholders, it really was kind of people just like right in the neighborhood downtown area, as well as people who maybe work for nonprofit or government that work with people who take transit. And then as we, you know, proceed with this, we'll definitely be casting our net much wider to involve the greater community and as well as other businesses and other nonprofits.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Okay, seeing no one, to go ahead and bring this to an end, we'll now go on to citizen communications. Did we receive any written communications we need to know about? Okay, is there any member of the public here? If so, you could have 2 to 3 minutes.
Originally, to talk about
We just lost the audio.
Yes,
I
maybe
can't.
you could stop sharing screen.
Oh, there we go. You're good.
Okay, can you hear us now, Todd?
Good.
Okay.
okay, so you're cutting paratransit for people who need it. They mentioned the fact that as of a couple of days from now, someone calls up, they need to get home from a grocery store, and they basically say, sorry.
So John, this is,
Can I finish this sentence?
sure.
Thank you. I see this thing about WTA going off into the housing field before they address the immediate issue, which is people want to get home. People want to go to the store. Your main business is to transport people. That's why you have a T in there. And as was pointed out in the paper just yesterday, handicapped people do not have a seat at the board. Handicapped people, I'm not as handicapped as the people who need the grocery store connection, but they were very pissed off yesterday and the day before when they found out that there was going to be a big cut in transportation. Now, I know there are explanations that will be fed to those people, and they will be told to shut up and don't rock the boat. However, the people who can't get home until the next paratransit shows up are not happy. Okay, I don't use paratransit. I should clarify, I'm not that handicapped. I'm a different handicap. The point is, those people need to have something to say, and if you're going to spend money on condos and shit like that, you probably need to consider the possibility that the people who are being cut do not appreciate the expansion out into this other field. People in the real estate business may enjoy turning the downtown bus station into a high-rise condo, but the people who actually need to get to paratransit are pissed off.
Thank you, John. The good news is that there's actually not cuts to paratransit. What's changing is how the rides are scheduled. So everyone can still get the rides they used to get. The difference is those rides just need to be scheduled in advance. What's changing is that you can't just do a will call, pick me up now. You have to ask for the ride ahead of time so it can be scheduled. So there actually are no cuts in paratransit ride service. The change is in how those rides are arranged and how far in advance they need to be arranged.
Well, somebody in public relations needs to get to the reporters for the 2 newspapers in town.
I agree. The article was.
So the article basically set off an explosion of people downtown saying, what do you mean they're going to cut? So.
But if you could help spread the word, it's not actually a cut, it's a change in how they're scheduled.
Yeah.
Allie, did you have your hand up?
I was just gonna say that I work in disability services and we've asked a lot of our clients about it. We've reached out to a couple of the other agencies, and people are not freaking out about it. They see the need for more consistent scheduling. It's going to make it so people are more on time to their doctor's appointments, to work to those things. Because those will call return trips, you know, there's somebody who's already on a schedule and then they have to break that schedule to go get that person. Now, you know, 3 people who are already on the bus could be late because of that. So I think it'll actually be a positive for us, at least. And the clients that
So
I've
thank you,
talked
John, for bringing that up. I do think that we probably need to do more work on making sure people understand it's not a cut. If that's still the perception, then we need to rectify that
The
misunderstanding.
other half of that is, I was confronted with this vision of turning the bus terminal into a skyscraper, and that the bus are going to pick up and pick up their that the whole first floor is going to wind up on the 4th floor. That the buses are going to go into
So
a ramp somewhere.
that was just a sketch of what things could look like. There's no plan, there's no, so please don't take away from that any of the details.
A lot of people just want to make sure that the bus terminal is still
Sure. Thank you, John. Is there any other member of the public who's online or in person who wants to address the board for 2 to 3 minutes? Seeing none, we'll go on with our board actions. We have 2 actions. The first is consideration of setting a public hearing on the transportation improvement plan. This is just a routine matter to set the hearing date. Ms. Shippen?
Correct. So we're asking the board to set a public hearing at the June 6th meeting to receive public comment on the transportation improvement plan.
June or
for-
July?
Sorry, July. In 2 days, July, for 24 through 29. And this document's required by the FTA and WashDOT to receive federal funding on projects. So we accumulate a list, send it to the COG. They include it with the whole Washington State Transportation Improvement Program. And then it goes up to the state and the federal government. It has no fiscal impact. It just is comprising a list. And then we will bring particular projects back to the board for authorization through the budget for 2024.
So the contemplated actions to set the hearing for the 6th, board members?
Second.
I have a motion before us to set July 6th as the hearing date to discuss WTA's Transportation Improvement Program. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Consider that unanimous. Thank you very much. The next action item is consideration of purchasing trapeze annual maintenance. Again, this is relatively routine, I believe. Is Mr. Nylander here? There you are.
Or yeah, again, this is just routine. Our purchase order is due for $230,000 in annual maintenance to trapeze. This company provides the bulk of our software that does our transit management. They do the software that books all our paratransit rides, tracks all of our operator shifts, and so forth. We typically do a lot of these big purchases at the end of the year as part of a general authorization, but there's enough changes that kind of happen throughout the year, with this one being in July, that we actually bring this one before the board in July on a regular basis.
And this expense is already included in the budget.
It is, yes.
I'd move approval.
Second.
Thank you, Seth. Thank you, Ally. Is there any further discussion of the motion is to approve the annual licensing for trapeze software? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We now move on to consent agenda consisting of routine expenditures and approval of the minutes for the May 4th meeting.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? That passes unanimously. We now go on to the final item on the agenda, which is reports to the board, general manager report. Mr. Reardons.
So to start off with some good news, we received notification last week that we received 2 state bus and bus facility grants. One is for $640,000 for our automated passenger counters. That'll allow us to get a much better read on who's riding and so forth. So that's good news. And then the other is 1.94 million for our route maintenance building and backup power. So that's good news, and thanks to the grants team for doing a great job in getting 2 of those.
Do we need to do any kind of budget amendment to realize these grants?
We haven't gotten all the grant agreements and all those kinds of things, but at some point we will come back and bring that through. So that's good news. More good news. We received 2 new electric buses, bringing us to 4. This is from the state grants that we got a couple years back. So it takes us to 4. They're in the kind of the make ready stage now to get back out there. So we anticipate having them on the streets end of June, probably. Is that? Yeah. So that's good news. So I hit you with 2 good news things. Then now the other update. So we've got we're doing charging station improvements out on Midway across the street to do that. Running into some technical problems on that where they're overheating. So they run and then they shut down after 3 to 7 minutes or so. ChargePoint is up here, manufacturers up here working on trying to figure out what that problem is. But wanted to pass along that new technology comes new problems, and working through those.
Warranties on those units.
Yeah. And thanks to Megan for putting that stuff into the contracts, making sure we get those, particularly with new technology. So we've got to have some patience as we're moving through these things and working through them, but we're learning a lot, so that's good. Back to good news. The preliminary numbers for, as you know, we did a ski to sea shuttle to help down in Fairhaven, and had over 800 riders on that on Sunday. So that's good. Thanks to Eric and his team for that. Which is good news. Another super exciting thing is today we're hosting 60 students from Ferndale High School's Introduction to Trades class. So they're coming and they're going to get to talk to people from IT and fleet facilities and maintenance and so forth, to take a look at what WTA does, get a ride and so forth, to see WTA potential careers and those kinds of things. So in this instance, Genevieve and Wendy Bebot are taking the lead on that, pulling that together. So that's really cool. That's really been an expanding program, this outreach to schools, and hoping that that also educates kids on WTA and riding and those kinds of things as well, a derivative benefit. So that's the exciting thing for today. For those that are here, there's a rider alert that went out just as a reminder. June 11th starts some of starts service changes. Those include renaming the Route 50 from Gooseberry Point to Lummi Nation. So going out, it'll read Lummi Nation. Coming back, it'll read the downtown like it always does on that. Some minor time changes on Route 71, the Cordata, Whatcom Community College, and then the Route 75 changes that we've talked about. So that all begins June 11th with a new markup on that. And then finally, just as a reminder for calendar, in case anybody's interested, Monday, June 12th is Transit Trivia Night at Dirac Brewing on North State Street. So that be a fun night. Bus rides, obviously, to that. And then Wednesday, August 2nd is WTA at the Bellingham Bells Night. So more to follow on that one, but wanted to put those on save the date, if you will. So pending any questions, that's all I have for my report.
Any questions for Les? Any further business before the WTA Board of Directors? If not, thanks everyone for showing up. Thanks for discussion on the downtown station. This meeting is adjourned.